But Foodla started as a simple, quick and easy to use marketplace for buying and selling local produce. And early on we focused on making it easy for local producers to digitally package, update and handle all their products, and to make themselves more part of the products, like storytelling, telling people or their customers about themselves as part of the product. And we also sorted all the producers geographically, so that each customer that went into the marketplace could see what producers and what food was available as closest to them. And after we launched Foodla, it didn't take long before a producer that we had been visiting gave us a call, and he said, well, Foodla is a super useful tool, and so far I mainly been used to work with physical product by physical means. The digitalization that I had is an assortment list on a landing page on my website. But what is starting to happen is that a lot of people start calling me about the products they have on my website, but it's up to date. Now, like, would it be possible for you to do or to make it so that all products that I am uploading to Foodla, all the changes that I'm doing in my assortments, also can be visible in other channels like my website? And we thought that, well, that's interesting. We thought. And then we called all other producers that we had been visiting, and we asked them if they had the same problem, and it turns out they had the same problem. So we created an integration we called Foodla Farm. And what we did was actually just make a simple integration where what they created on our platform also could be viewed and visible in all other platforms or all other channels that they were having. And starting to work with these producers and creating this tool, we also saw that these producers were connected by each other through something called like food clusters. It's organizations where you have producers that are members, and these organizations help the producers to reach out with their products to stores, restaurants and other customer groups, right? So we thought that, well, if we have all these producers in separate sites, why not take the marketplace and combine them again, but in a channel where they are already promoting themselves to customers, right? So we talked to the board of one of these food clusters, and it turns out when we proposed this idea, it turned out that they had already been trying to solve this problem, but they didn't have the tools for it. It was like they tried to do it in a centralized manner where everybody, or they had one guy driving around to each producer, trying to document all the products, and then there was a change and then everything fell apart. So when we proposed Foodla as a decentralized platform where each producer can handle their own content and just combine it back to a marketplace for them, it was spot on. And, yeah, illustration of it. So with that being said, we started to see, okay, so Foodla, what we're doing really, really well is acting as a content management tool for these producers. They don't necessarily need a new marketplace, but they need a way to digitalize their product. They need a way to package themselves digitally to be able to reach out in all these channels. And we also saw that, looking at the figures, we saw that there was a sharp increase of users in scrolling among the products or the integrations that we have done on all these sites. So it actually surpassed the amount of users we had on our own marketplace. So we thought that, well, if we don't have to take the customer to the marketplace, why not take the marketplace to where customers and producers meet already today? And with that being said, where do the broader majority of people turn when they want to buy food today? Well, they go to the big players, right? So they go to Coop, they turn to ICA, they go for AGFO, now they have Mathem. So why not take the concept we're done with all these producers and just present it in a channel with much more customers and the logistics behind it? And so we started to talk to the online director for Coop Sweden, and he was really thrilled about this concept that we were proposing. And in January this year, we had a board decision from Coop that this was a project that they wanted to go forth with. Yeah, it was really fun. So why is this so good then? For producers, why is it good for Coop, why is it good for the end consumer, and why don't they do this themselves? the farm store, or the concept where we create like a farmer's market on Coop Online, it quite differs from how Coop Online works right now. So now you have just a bunch of products, no information about producers, you have products and a price, and that's how people compare things. But local producers, they don't necessarily just sell the product, they sell the image of themselves. For people to buy local produce, they need to know it's locally produced, and they need to know the benefits for buying locally produced food. And that's like why it's also more expensive. You have to tell the story around the producer to make people understand the value around buying locally. So what we did with what we are doing in the farm store is that not only do we facilitate all the products that the producer are going to sell, all the information about the product, but we're also creating space for the producer to be much more tied to the product. So if you find a product on the farm store, you can also find more information about that producer. You can get to know the producer. You can start to trust who you're buying the food from. They don't necessarily have like an organic label because it's expensive and it's like, but if you go there, you can see the sheep, like, you know, they're walking outside on the farm, eating the grass outside there, but they don't have that specific like label. But people don't care if they can trust, if they start to know the producer. They don't have to have those labels. And it's Foodla, where it's our platform that is handling all that information. So we handle all the products, all the information that needs to be in place to be a legal product when it comes to nutrition, ingredients, and so on. So a lot of things. And we handle all the content. And we also handle all the content around like a producer's digital identity. So we can create those profiles and connect them in different kind of ways and present the producer and the product in the farm store. So that is the visible part. But there is also a lot of benefits behind everything, or indirect benefits. So if you go into Coop Online today, or you go into Eco Online, or you go to Mathem, you will mainly find big brands and big producers, right? And that is because all these players, they have a package of producers that are able to distribute their products all over the nation. So they have that like a super tight package of big producers, the same products all over the country wherever you go into the online store. For each producer, they're trying to add on top of that. Say, for example, a producer wants to be part of the online store in Stockholm. There's no system that caters to that. So everything has to be handled manually. It's a lot of money. The producer have to pay a lot of cost. There's a lot of labor for Coop. So they don't actually want local producers because it's such a hassle. So what they tell these producers is that, well, you have to be a national reseller. But what we are doing is that we are sorting all those producers geographically. So we're tagging those producers with a location, and that makes it possible for us to let local producers sell to their local markets. So if they comply with the rules to sell to one single store in Stockholm, they're also complying with the rules to sell at the farm store at Coop. So there's much less regulation, much less cost around it than would be being a national reseller to be part of an online store. And the logistics is also a really interesting or truly fantastic thing. So logistics, I guess everybody knows, like, logistics is a hassle when it comes to the food industry. And especially for local producers, all initiatives are struggling with, well, how can we take this product to point A, to point B, point C, and all those places, and then you try to like package this as a food bag, and you try to. So it's everybody's trying to figure out logistics, right? How we solve it, or how we can solve it, by selling through a big online actor as Coop, is that if the producer just have to deliver to one distribution node to reach all of Stockholm with home delivery. So all producers that are in the farm store, if they can deliver to, in this case it's Kungen Kurva for Stockholm, Coop uses their trucks and their logistics to reach everybody with home delivery. So you get bigger volumes to a single place, and that is something that is interesting as well, because on the food market to solve this problem, you have been having like a lot of distributors who's like driving around to all stores and trying to create those economics of scale. But what is happening here is that all producers that I've talked to, they say, well, skip the distributor. We want to make this route ourselves, our own route. If it's just one place we have to deliver to, then let us make it ourselves. We make 15% more that we don't have to give to a third party. So it's great. It's great. And one more thing is that when it comes to the food market, we're working with something, or the food market's working with something that is called revision windows, right? So that means that if, for example, as a producer, you have a cheese, for example, and you might already have the cheese, the package, the labeling, everything, it's ready to sell. But to be able to sell it, you need to register the product. So, and the food industry works that they have different kind of revision windows for different categories. So even though you have the product, you might have to wait for 6 months before you can introduce that piece of cheese to the market and then start selling it through all these vendors, right? And if you miss that, well, then you have a couple of months more. So it's really hard to actually sell something that is in season, because when you have the product and it's in season, well, then you have 6 months to the next revision window. However, for local producers who sell to the local market, all revision windows are open for all categories. That means that producers selling in the farm store, they can much faster become part of the farm store and introduce products more accordingly to season without having to wait like 6 or 8 months before they can introduce the product. And that is amazing.
Yes, it is.
And so Foodla is the platform that makes this possible, both directly and indirectly. And by making a platform where we collect all the information around local producers and package them in a manageable way, in sort of a plug and play fashion, where we can have all these producers and plug it into a farm store like at Coop online. We have the potential to become something much, much more in the marketplace that we started as. We have the opportunity to become a digital... Oh, so much for that build-up. Okay, I'll do it like that. Yeah, we have the opportunity to become a digital infrastructure tying together the local food market without having to solve the logistics ourselves and without touching any products at all. We just facilitates and ties together the producers and the digital channels. And I truly believe that this will change how the food or the local food market works in its foundation. So always when you talk about startups, to talk about your ideas, the question that always arises, well, you have this great idea and you obviously have some traction, but is the market big enough? Is it a problem worth solving? Is this something that we should focus on? Just to solve that problem, I can say that the local food market is a huge market. And more than that, it's a fast growing market. In fact, locally produced food is the fastest growing trend on the food market right now. It's growing faster. It's a more important keyword in customer purchase decision than organic labeling is nowadays. And the fastest growing channel for selling food today is the e-commerce channels. They're growing by more than 40% each year and done so since 2005. So the food market is completely changing. And Foodla, we are the link that are connecting the fastest growing trend when people want to buy food and the fastest growing sales channels. So that is what we're doing, and that is why we're trying to solve this as well. But I'm not doing this myself. I just want to do a shout out for the small but really competent team. I have Richard, who's my brother. He's actually studying at Stanford. He's been studying there and doing research for 6 years within computer science and artificial intelligence. So super bright guy. And I have Kai, who is a computer wizard. He makes everything super fast. So Then we have me trying to tie everything together, being the sort of business guy. But I think that even though we're solving something really interesting and we're gaining traction, and we're a competent team doing it, I'm convinced that we still gonna face a lot of problems and we're still gonna make a lot of mistakes. But we wouldn't be working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week if we weren't passionate about the problem that we're solving. And we wouldn't do it if we didn't truly believe that what we're building has the capability to become a global game changer and change the world for the better. Thank you.